Hey Karen, welcome to the 2019 OEC golf event. Just want to give you an opportunity here to view your swing. We'll let that play through, and we'll put you back in your dress position and take a look at a few things for you. So while we got you back here in your dress position, let's first of all take a look at your posture. Your spine's nice and straight and on a tilt. Legs come down into a nicely unlocked position. Arms hang down sort of in along your rib cage, then your forearms work out, and then the club works out to the ball. So if I were going to work on your golf game, what I'd like to do here is I'd like to try and just get your spine maybe on a little bit more of an angle, so that your sternum's a little bit more into the golf ball. Keep your legs unlocked exactly as they are. And we get your spine a little bit more tilted, then the arms can hang a lot more naturally down. So your hands are a little closer to your thighs, and then the club can work out to the ball. So that would increase the angle relationship between your arms and the golf club through your forearms to the shaft of the club. And then very important is this spinal position, whereby we definitely have to get that on more of a tilt and just have you a little bit more into the golf shot. From this vantage point, we also want to take a look at your alignment. Now we can see your feet sort of running in this direction here. If we carry that out towards your intended target, theoretically your club face is supposed to run parallel to your feet, and parallel lines on camera would have an appearance of converging. So what we can see here is you're basically sort of set up maybe down the right center, or definitely the right side of the fairway. So really no issues there at all. Let's go ahead and do a little split screen comparison between you and Chela Choi, and we can see some color-coded lines here on the screen just as a visual reference as it pertains to swing playing. But before we take a look at that, let's just refer back to the posture that I was talking about. See how her spine's angled a little bit more? Her sternum and her head are out over her toes more, so she's just more into her golf shot. And we can also see that her arms are straighter, they're hanging down, and the club works out to the ball, whereas your arms are folded and sort of your inner triceps are running more across your rib cage, and then your forearms work out. So just changing that spinal position and the arm position would be ideal. Now as we initiate the takeaway, I want to draw the golf club back by creating good shoulder rotation, bring the arms and hands back as well as the club. And we want to see the club come back directly along the red line. That would mean that the golf club is swinging back on proper swing plane. As we continue to bring the golf club back through this zone, we're going to start to incorporate some wrist hinge into play, where we're going to transition the club head from below to above our hands, and then work the club from red up to yellow. When we finally set the club at the top of the backswing, the left arm and the club are going to be situated on the yellow line. We're going to have full shoulder rotation, and we're going to do this about a very stable right leg. If we go ahead and watch your takeaway here, you draw your hands back very, very nicely. Shoulders are rotating. Nice one-piece takeaway. Club's coming back on a proper plane. Looks really, really good. We see your left wrist sort of starting to buckle down and underneath, sort of lacking a little bit of wrist hinge through this portion of the swing, and arm extension. Your right arm's folding and your inner tricep staying close to your rib cage. We get a little bit of wrist hinge in here with your left wrist bowing. A little bit more wrist hinge through there as well, working the club to the top of the backswing. When we finally get to the top of the backswing, we can see that you've created really good shoulder rotation, stable right side. You don't really maximize your wrist hinge, and you get your left wrist into a bowed position. I actually don't mind the bowed position. There are some excellent golfers that actually get this left wrist a bit bowed, but they do achieve a little bit more wrist hinge than you're achieving. But this bowed position is okay. I'm okay with that. For example, if you pay attention to Dustin Johnson, you'll see that his left wrist is very, very bowed at the top of the backswing. An older player used to be like a guy like Tom Lehman, very bowed in the left wrist. Certainly not an issue. As we create our transition back into the ball, simply want to move our weight from our right foot to our left. We want to fire our knees and our hips to the target, unwind our core, and fire our hands. And in doing so, we need to bring the golf club from yellow back down on top of red. And that's exactly what we see here with Chela Choi. The golf club has returned back to being on plane. The other thing we want to observe at this stage of the golf swing is the relationship between the lead forearm and the golf club. I refer to this as the backwards check mark. It simply means that the club head is remaining above and behind our hands coming into the hitting zone. And this is ultimately what's going to allow us to create a lot of power in our golf swing, let alone the ability to hit the ball straight, again, because the club has returned back to plane. Before we go ahead and take a look at your transition back in the ball, we also do notice that you set your arms a little bit on the shallow end, just meaning your left arm was slightly underneath the yellow line. Again, not that big of an issue. As you create your transition back into the ball, excellent dropping of your hands and arms. Looks really, really good here. And if we take a look at your pre-impact position between your lead forearm and your golf club, you have your backwards check mark. So that's fantastic. The other thing that we see is we see that the club has returned right back onto plane. So this pre-impact position really can't be any better at this stage of the golf swing. Looks really, really good. As we go ahead and watch Cello continue to come into the ball, simply what should happen is club head should just track right into the ball directly down this red line. What we see with Chella Choi is her club drops just ever so slightly underneath. So she's actually attacking the ball just a little bit too far from the inside. So her miss could potentially be a little bit of a block out to the right. But the reality is she probably releases the club just a little bit more, imparts a little right to left spin. Ball starts a hair right, and then we get a nice little soft draw. But the reality is if we want to hit straight golf shots, three things we need. We need to aim well. That means our feet have to run parallel to our target line. We then have to bring the club down on plane, and the club has to attack the ball directly from this red line, and then the club face has to square up. With you, as we continue to come into the ball, let's go to the next frame. We can see the club still directly on plane. Go to the next frame, and club seems to have all of a sudden just appeared to moved a little bit to the outside there. So you're coming on perfect plane, and then it just looks like it's tracking a little bit to the outside. But nonetheless, it's a really good looking downswing. I mean, if we connect the dots here, we can see that you're actually more on plane through that zone of the swing than Chella Choi was. But then all of a sudden through here, the club shaft is appearing to get just a little bit out in front. That could be a byproduct of the fact that, you know, one of the things we notice from the top of your backswing, you have really good knee work to start with, but we're not really transferring the weight. So there's no lateral motion to your left side. What you're doing is, if we had a camera face-on view, we would see that you're uncoiling, your knees are firing, you're uncoiling, but there's no lateral motion to your left side. And those are the three things that need to happen with your lower body as we move to impact. We have to have lateral motion, we have to have an uncoil, and we have to have a posting up on the left leg. We can see as you're getting to impact here that you're starting to come off your right heel there. So that's all of a sudden your right foot started to kick in a little bit. So we can see with Chella Choi at impact, her right heel's off the ground, and then what we're going to notice is that on the way through to the finish, her right heel is going to fully come up off the ground onto the toe of the right foot, allows the hips to square around, the shoulders to fully rotate, hands are high, and the club's back and behind us. So really, your footwork's just late coming into impact. You hang back on your right side a little too long, hitting the ball, and then all of a sudden your right heel comes up off the ground, and you start creating great footwork through to the finish, and that looks terrific. So, sorry, just hit the wrong button there, so I gotta find your golf swing again. There we go. And let's undo those three lines, and let's get you back to the finishing position. So overall, I mean, you got some really great athletic qualities in your golf swing. Your hands work really well. You draw them back. You fire through. You got good coil, uncoil. You do end up getting to a good finish because you do end up creating good footwork. Again, it is a little bit late in comparison to your upper body. The other thing we see here is you fall back onto your right side. So let's just, you don't want to do that. So I mean, once you create this motion right here through your finish, up onto your toe of your right foot, get your weight on your left side, try not to fall back out of the golf shot. Okay. So overall, I mean, things are looking really good. Your alignment's really good. You're coming down on a pretty decent plane there, and then at that point in time, we really need to look at the club face and what the club face is doing, and that's really going to be a byproduct as well of your grip. But one thing I want to point out here is that, you know, your descending motion was really good until about a quarter of the way to the golf ball. And if we take a look at your path, the club actually appears it has fallen outside of the ball, now drops down and across, hitting the ball. So see the path at which your golf club's moving on? So very simply put, what happens here is if we happen to square the club face up to that path, you'll hit the ball solid. The issue is the ball's going to go in that direction. So you're going to have to leave the face a little bit open here in order to get the ball going towards your intended target. And that's exactly what we see. We see the ball heading out in this direction, but look at your yellow path. Your yellow path is going left and the ball's going right. So that's going to do some indifferent things to the golf ball as far as spin, and causing it to either fade a little or causing it to draw a little. So, but that ball is definitely heading out towards your intended target. I'm going to hazard to guess that because that club face was open, it is going to move a little bit out to the right. So you are going to create just a subtle, probably fade on this ball where the ball's moving a little bit from left to right. So golf swing looks really, really good. Little bit of fine tuning just sort of before impact there, just to make sure you stay on perfect plane and really not attacking this ball just subtly from out to in, and then having to compensate with that club face. But overall, good job. Looks really good. Anyways, if at any point in time you ever want to work on any of these aspects, I'm over at Glen Abbey, obviously where the event was held. And if you're involved with any golf tournaments, I'll sit in a committee for any events, and you're looking for a unique gift to provide to your guests, certainly feel free to touch base and be happy to discuss those swing analysis services with you. Anyways, hope you had a great summer. Hope you enjoyed your day at the OEC event, and hope you enjoy the rest of the fall.